Did you know that street vendors were selling pea soup during the lifetime of Greek philosopher Epicurus? He advocated that to be happy, you needed a simple diet. Pea soup is a comfort food, and eating it can make you feel good. Today, I'm making a quick pea soup using canned peas and ham on this week's Making a Mess with the Yankee Camper. Let's put together the ingredients we'll need for pea soup. First, we'll need an 8.5-ounce can of peas, a 5-ounce can of smoked ham, 4 ounces of diced carrots, and for the dry ingredients, we'll need 1/2 teaspoon of minced onions, a 1/2 teaspoon of dried parsley, a 1/2 teaspoon of celery flakes, and a dash of black pepper. Those are all placed in a Loctite plastic bag. I'll seal that up, and I'm all set for my lunch. I'll see you there. I don't have any endorsements for making these videos, but there is a cost associated with things like campsite fees and supplies. This channel runs on coffee. If you enjoy the work that I do in creating these videos and would like to help out with expenses, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. It doesn't need to be much, just a couple of dollars. I'll put a link in the description. Now, let's get back to the video. Peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, peas porridge in the pot 9 days old. Mother Goose is often portrayed as a loving older woman who shares little rhyming ditties designed for young children to develop language skills in a way easy to memorize. Plus, they can promote social skills. Sometimes they're set to a tune such as Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Old MacDonald Had a Farm. These help to expand a child's world beyond their immediate existence. While fairy tales often have a moral lesson, nursery rhymes typically do not, although they may have long ago. The short rhymes are pleasant to hear, and even if the child hasn't yet developed speech, the simple sing-song lays the groundwork for assigning meanings to sounds. So, was Mother Goose a professor of linguistics? Well, no. She was a fictional character from 17th century Europe. Or was she? Isaac Goose, also known as Vergoose, was a successful Boston landowner in the late 16 and early 1700s. He married Mary Boston, the daughter of a shipwright and captain around 1667. She had borne him 10 children when she passed away at the age of 42 in 1690. Mrs. Goose is buried in the old granary burial grounds and is sometimes mentioned as the original Mother Goose. That would be inaccurate. You see, after Mary's death, Isaac, age 55, married Elizabeth Foster, age 27, and she became stepmother to 4 of his children aged 10 or under, including an infant. She then sired him another 6 children, 4 of who lived to adulthood. In 1715, one of these children, also named Elizabeth for her mother, married Thomas Fleet, and the ceremony was officiated by none other than Cotton Mather. Fleet was a printer by trade, but due to an unfortunate faux pas in Bristol, England, where he worked, he thought it best to skedaddle to the New World, where he met the younger Elizabeth. Fleet would go on to create the Boston Evening Post in 1735. Thomas and Eliza had 6 children, and this is where it gets sketchy. Supposedly, in 1719, Fleet published a book entitled Songs for the Nursery, or Mother Goose's Melodies, purported to be a compilation of the songs sung to his children by his mother-in-law, Elizabeth Goose. However, by 1833, only one copy was still known to exist when it was reprinted as the only true Mother Goose. Was the elder Elizabeth Goose the real Mother Goose? Well, the name in America is certainly attributed to her, but it had been around in Europe for some 70 years before Fleet's publication, if he actually published it at all. And where is her final resting place? It's believed that Elizabeth is buried among noted patriots such as John Hancock, Samuel Adams, and Paul Revere at the old Granary Burying Ground. If you go there to visit, don't be duped by Mary's headstone, because although she was a mother named Goose, she is not the Mother Goose. Elizabeth, who lived to age 92, lies somewhere in the graveyard at a place no longer identified. As for the nursery rhyme itself, it first appeared in a Mother Goose book around 1760, several years after Elizabeth had passed on. So what's the point of Pease Porridge Hot? I looked it up, and it supposedly shows that even a lowly meal, such as the thick soup made with peas, eaten by peasants, could be varied to accommodate one's preference, making life a little easier. But personally, I think it's just a cute little rhyme. Some like it hot, some like it cold, but there's no way I'm going to eat it if it's 9 days old. Now, you know. Let's head out to His Majesty's fort on the shores of Lake Champlain to make dinner. Everything you see behind me is Vermont. That's Lake Champlain. And we're going to make pea soup. First thing I'll need to do is break out my mess kit. And I'm just going to be using the smaller pot and one of the cups. Let's open up our ingredients. We've got a small can of peas, chicken, diced carrots, and our pea soup mix. The first step is to open the peas and drain that water right into your cup. Then open the carrots and do the same with the liquid from the carrots. Mix the dry ingredients right into that liquid. Give that a decent stir and let all of those dried ingredients start to rehydrate in the liquid from the 2 vegetables. And then just place that aside. Next, open your can of peas. Pour those right into the small pot. One of the things about pea soup is it takes a long time to break down the peas so that they become sort of mushy. We're going to aid that by using the fork, and we're just going to mash those peas up against the side of the pan. I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. So I've turned those peas into what appears to be a green mush. And now I'm just going to add in all of the liquid from the cup. I'll add in the Then I'm going to open the ham. That ham is relatively dry, but there's a little bit of liquid in there. I'm going to go drain that liquid, and I'll be right back. Using your fork, just add that ham right into the pot as well. Break up those chunks. And you can see it's a relatively chunky soup with the ham and the carrot bits in there. I'm going to light the stove. I'm going to let that heat with a cover until it starts to bubble, and then I'll turn it down. That will probably take about 2 minutes. That soup has started to bubble. I am going to turn it down and just let it simmer for about 15 minutes. That soup's going to take about 15 minutes on low. While that cooks, hang around and watch this segment. I tend to associate this thick puree with London fog, probably because of reruns growing up of the old Batman TV show, where the villain played by Rudy Valley was Lord Marmaduke Fogg, and his sister was Lady Penelope Pea Soup, portrayed by Glynis Johns. Many famous people have called London home, including the current King Charles III, and historical figures such as Charles Dickens and William Shakespeare. But one of London's most famous residents, however, never lived there at all. In a flat that he rented for Mrs. Hudson at 221B Baker Street, Sherlock Holmes started many of his investigations. Well, it was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle who created the adventures of the indomitable sleuth. The image you have in mind of the famous detective is most likely one developed by an American. Wait, Basil Rathbone was an American, right? That's correct. But he drew his interpretation from somebody who only appeared in film once. Born in 1853 in Hartford, Connecticut, William Gillette, an actor, brought the renowned Sherlock Holmes to life by portraying him around 1,300 times on stage starting in 1894. Although the magnifying glass had been part of Conan Doyle's description, it was Gillette who strengthened the association as a tool for investigation. Likewise, the deerstalker cap had been part of the book's illustrations by Sidney Paget, but it was Gillette's portrayal on stage that cemented the image to Holmes. Other items, such as the violin and the calabash gourd pipe, were both intertwined with Sherlock by Gillette. As a matter of fact, the bent pipe may have been more of a result of practicality than anything else, as a straight pipe would position Gillette's hand too close to his mouth, diminishing his ability to project to the audience. The famous line attributed to the great detective was never uttered by him in books. "It's elementary, my dear Watson," came from William Gillette's adaptation for his live performance. Well, what he actually said was fellow and not Watson, but the movie writers picked up the line and made the slight modification. As for Sir Arthur, he not only approved of the actor's depiction of his famous character, it was due in great part to Gillette that the writer resurrected Holmes after killing him off. As a matter of fact, Conan Doyle once had to vouch for the American after being arrested as a spy. Gillette, understanding that to financially make the most of entertainment, he not only acted, but also wrote and produced a number of plays, creating multiple lines of income, which made him fairly wealthy. Initially living on a large yacht, which later burned, Gillette continued to make money from his craft for more than 40 years. So much so that he built a castle for himself, starting in 1914 that took 5 years to complete. He then expanded it in 1923 and again in 1926. About 30 miles upstream from where the Connecticut River enters Long Island Sound, the fully functioning oversized stage prop sits atop a hill overlooking the Chester-Hadleigh Ferry, where it crosses the waterway. Here, Gillette entertained neighbors as well as famous celebrities. Make no mistake, however, William Gillette was an odd duck. Each of the door latches in the castle were made of wood, and individually designed by the man himself. The same is true of the window operations. Though neither a lover of tobacco nor alcohol, he kept a liquor cabinet with a hidden lock to prevent guests from helping themselves. Even after he revealed the secret to access the booze, a mirror positioned above one of the doors to the outside from the great room permitted Gillette to keep an eye on who was tippling by positioning himself near the door of his second-story bedroom. Only photos are allowed inside, so I have stills, but no video. Now owned and operated by the state of Connecticut, the castle is open for tours where you can see some of the actor's personal artifacts, observe some of his unusual designs, and even get a taste of what it may have been like aboard the one-third scale trains operated by the actor on what was a 3-mile track, including a tunnel, bridges, switches, and a rail station, although the current station is not the original. This is now a trail that one can hike on the former estate. Also not part of the original design is an outdoor stage, but performances about Gillette can be seen on weekends during the summer. Although no longer a household name, 120 years ago, William Gillette would have been far more familiar than his distant cousin's new razor company. If you're in the area and have the time, a visit to the castle is elementary. Now you know. Let's finish up our pea soup out at Crown Point.
That soup is done. I'm just going to grab a pot holder, remove the soup from the stove, place the cover aside. I'm going to take a bowl, start serving that up. Traditional hot meal out in the field. Pea soup with diced carrots and ham. I'm going to eat my supper and then I'll clean up my mess. If you've enjoyed me making pea soup out in the field, give it a thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I try to put a video out about every week. If you have any thoughts, put them in the comment section. I'd love to hear. Be sure to get outside, and thank you for watching.